In India, women were only allowed to go to the toilet twice a day. It was before sunrise and after sunset. Because there were no toilets in Indian homes. Every day early in the morning, all the women went out of the house with a bronze potty. They had to go together to a desolate place a few kilometers away from home to go to the toilet. However, there were also some men who were very rude and intentionally used car lights to shine on them. Therefore, they had to use cloth towels to cover their faces. But one day, there was a girl who broke the tradition that had lasted for thousands of years here. She was this man's wife. She was Jaya. She had graduated from college. And her parents were also intellectual class. Her whole family didn't agree with going to the toilet like that. This day was Jaya's wedding night. But early the next morning, there was a quick knock on the door that woke Jaya. She opened the window to see. There were a lot of women outside with bronze potty. They came to ask Jaya to go to the toilet together. Seeing that, she angrily asked her husband. Why had her husband never mentioned that there was no toilet in the house? But her husband just showed an innocent expression. Women in the village had to go to the toilet outside. And this wasn't a strange thing. Jaya was also helpless and took a bronze potty to join those women. The girl next to Jaya said the whole village didn't have toilets. If they drank a lot of water during the day, they could only refrain from going to the toilet. After walking for over an hour, they finally arrived. Seeing this scene, Jaya angrily threw the bronze potty on the ground. After that, she told her husband that he had to deal with this. Or else she would go to her mother's house. And her husband could only suggest this to his father. He wanted to build a toilet in the house. But unexpectedly, the father was very angry. Because in the opinion of most Indians, the toilet was a very dirty thing. If they built a toilet in the house, the gods would be angry. And his father was a Hindu and very religious. Not long before that, the father even forced her husband to marry a cow. Just because that day was a zodiac day, so it was very suitable for marriage. The father said if Jaya didn't go out to go to the toilet, he would go on a hunger strike. The husband just had to take Jaya to the neighbor's house. It turned out that because of illness, this old woman had to stay in bed for many days. So her family also reluctantly built her a toilet. Knowing that, Jaya was overjoyed. However, constantly going to the toilet at someone else's house wasn't a long-term plan. One night, Jaya suddenly woke up her husband. Because she ate something in the evening, she had a stomach ache. The two of them hurriedly went out. They finally went to the place to go to the toilet, but suddenly there was a light shining on. Her father-in-law drove a motorbike over here. Seeing that, her father-in-law was confused, so he fell down on a pile of firewood by the roadside. Meanwhile, Jaya was extremely embarrassed about this. When getting home, the father said this often happened, so there was no problem. Hearing that, Jaya was so angry that she argued with her husband. However, the husband had to stand between his father and his wife, so he was also very awkward. The next day, he took Jaya to the train station. It turned out that the train stopped in the village every day for about 7 minutes. So Jaya could use the toilet on the train. Just like that, the couple started going to the place where the train stopped every day. Their life was also peaceful again. But one day, when Jaya just entered the toilet, there were a few passengers who came in later, so they put their luggage in front of the toilet door. At this moment, Jaya panicked and shouted, "Wait until they moved all the luggage out, the train had already departed." The husband didn't have time to react at all, he could only watch the train take his wife away. At night, 3 Indian men were stealing a public toilet. When getting home, Jaya's husband immediately covered the toilet. Then he slowly went in and made a phone call to his wife. Since there was no toilet in the house, Jaya went to her mother's house. But when Jaya hadn't come home yet, her husband had to go to the police station. It turned out that the father discovered that there was a toilet in his house. So the father reported to the police to arrest the husband. Not long after, Jaya also rushed to the police station and bailed her husband out. However, she was extremely angry. She wanted a toilet, which was a reasonable request, so her husband didn't have to be so sneaky. But the next day, there was a journalist who reported in the newspaper that Jaya had returned to her mother's house because her husband's house didn't have a toilet. This time, the whole village was extremely confused. Her husband's grandmother took the women of the village to her mother's house. They blamed Jaya for running away from home and making the family lose face because of this. For thousands of years, women in the village had refrained from going to the toilet during the day. They just waited until evening to go to the toilet. Even Jaya's mother advised her not to overdo it. Hearing that, her father couldn't stand it anymore. He felt that his daughter didn't cause unreasonable trouble. Many girls had been abused while going to the toilet outside because there was no toilet in their house. He even thought that this country didn't have enough respect for women. Unexpectedly, the biggest obstacle for women was themselves. After hearing these words, Jaya's husband also felt embarrassed. he was determined to build a toilet for his wife in the most transparent way. After that, he suggested building a toilet in the village meeting. However, everyone immediately, because in their opinion, for thousands of years, no one had gone to the toilet in the house. Because they thought it would bring illness to their family members. Even the women in the village didn't agree. However, he was determined. One day, Jaya found out. Actually, for years ago, the village received 2.9 billion rupee from the government to build public toilets. However, up to now, there wasn't a single toilet in the village. Jaya thought this money was embezzled. After that, her husband took the document and rushed into the office of the Minister of the Environment. Faced with his questioning, the minister just smiled. It turned out that the government had built toilets in the village. But the people in the village intentionally changed them into barber shops, stables for horses. There were even tailor shops. For many years, the minister had been waiting for someone to investigate this matter. Under the minister's help, the husband sought a lawyer. And he officially filed a lawsuit with the village committee. The toilet construction approval processes took at least 11 months. The minister said this was also a battle. Because the people they had to fight weren't just villagers. But this was a culture that had lasted for thousands of years. Because he wanted to quickly pick up Jaya, her husband decided to build the toilet in his house first. However, seeing this, the father didn't agree and went on a hunger strike. But this time, her husband didn't hesitate. A few days later, the first toilet in the village was completed. Jaya's husband was happy and immediately informed her to come back home to try this new toilet. The next morning, he was awakened by loud noises. It turned out that his father brought someone to destroy the toilet he just built. Seeing that, he was also extremely helpless. He just wanted to build a toilet in the house. Why was it so difficult? That night, Jaya thought within 1,700 years, there wasn't a single divorce in this village. So she suddenly came up with an idea. The next day, there was a divorce case because of the toilet published in the newspaper. People in the village were extremely confused. All the women in the village felt that Jaya had humiliated them. Meanwhile, all the men in the village wanted to kick Jaya's husband out of here. After that, there was a reporter coming to interview. Facing the camera, for the first time, Jaya revealed this bizarre practice to everyone. When the reporter asked her who should be in charge of this divorce, Jaya confidently replied, "It's the women who will go to the toilet tomorrow." This made the women in the village extremely shocked. Eventually, these women were also aware of this. They threw away all the bronze potties in turn. At the same time, they also refused to cook rice. Because if they didn't eat, they wouldn't need to go to the toilet. After that, all the women in the village went on strike. This finally caught the attention of the officials. However, Jaya and her husband's divorce date was coming soon. Jaya's husband originally wanted to take her to another place to start a new life. However, Jaya didn't want to avoid this. She firmly wanted to be the winner of this battle. After that, they also filed for divorce in court. At this moment, the secretary rushed in and brought a letter. After the judge saw the letter, he cancelled their divorce. Because the government had already agreed to build toilets in their village. It turned out that after finding out about this, the minister bought 7 locks. And he asked to lock all the toilets in all the offices. Originally, it took 11 months to get approval to build toilets. However, thanks to that, their request was approved within 1 day. One night, Jaya's grandmother-in-law suddenly had a stomach ache. She hurriedly went out to go to the toilet. But because of the carelessness, she fell down the stairs. She couldn't take it anymore. So she could only ask her son to help her into the broken toilet. This time, Jaya's father-in-law seemed to have realized many things. He finally realized the importance of the toilet. Therefore, the revolutionary struggle to build toilets had finally won. These people were the main characters of the story. Thanks to their efforts, they finally changed the fate of 600 million Indian women.